DrainMan here, and today I have got a very special video. In today's video, we are going to build the first aluminum FPV drone frame. That's right, we are going to take these wonderful components and we are going to put them on an aluminum FPV drone frame. Aluminum, you might ask? Yes. We've tried titanium. If you want to check that out, I'll put a link for you down in the video description, but it did nothing but bend and fail, leaving us with no other option than carbon fiber once again. So today, are we going to venture into a new world where there is a material better than carbon fiber, stronger, lighter, cheaper, recyclable? Huh, you're not going to want to miss this. Let's go. All right, pilots, so in today's aluminum FPV drone build, we are going to run HD. So I've got a Nebula Pro Vista kit right here. I'm going to go ahead and try out this full function T-motor flight controller. This guy is packed with features. If you have not seen or heard of this flight controller, I've actually got a video on it. I will link this video down in the video description, and we're going to pair it up with the T-motor V45 Lite. And then we are going to top it off with the T-motor Pacers. So we've got ourselves a nice T-motor quadcopter, and for fun, I'm going to put some blue LED race wire to spicing it up just a little bit. So enough messing around, let's dive in. I'm going to go ahead and crack this frame open. How long has he been making them? I think for quite some time, but have we got to see it run in person? Not me. I haven't, so I am stoked. I want you to know that I just did a review on the frame itself, so if you are interested or want to learn more about it, definitely go check that video out. So for our FPV feed and our radio link, we are going to be running this Caddx Nebula Pro. So let's go ahead and get this mounted and inside of the quad and out of our way. This guy's brand new out of the package. Ooh, that is pretty. Brand spanking new. Okay, so before we mount our Vista, I do want to point out that our AT6 frame comes with a 3D print to accept and hold our antenna. The antenna that we get with our kit is this guy here, and I'll show you if I pop that in. I mean, that just doesn't fit right. So what I'm going to do is I am going to install a Rush Cherry, which has the same form factor as the old Caddx antenna. That means I should be able to slide that in and get myself, look, a very nice snug fit once I push it in. So that's what we're going to run, and I'm going to pop this off just like that, and we're going to run this to our Vista. Boom. First thing I want to do is tin all of my pads. Okay, so all of our pads are now tinned. I should be able to come to our connector and tin all of our wires. And if you don't think that's important, then don't do it. But when you go to solder and your soldering isn't happening the way that it should, you might have wished you listened. Now we're going to go from left to right, starting with our S-bus. Our S-bus is on this side. So what I'll do, we'll give it a little tug, make sure it's strong. And then our next one is going to be our ground for our receiver, because I run the DJI radio. If you don't run the DJI radio, you run Crossfire, ELRS, FR Sky, whatever you run. If it's not the DJI radio, you will not connect those two wires that I just connected. All right, the very next wire is going to be the white one. We're going to come in, and next up is yellow. We'll solder that up. We'll need our black. And finally is going to be our power, which is this red wire here. Okay, so there we go. All of our wires are soldered up and looking good. checking it on the flight controller, looks good. Once you're done soldering, I recommend taking a close look and make sure you're happy with all of your connections. Make sure they're all nice and tight and look good, which mine are, so I'm ready to move on to the next step. And that's going to be where I grab a 1.5 millimeter driver. I'm going to pop this open right here, and I'm going to slide out that bracket. Now, since we're changing to the Rush Cherry, there is a metal connector on the bottom, which is absolutely ingenious if you think about it. It allows you to clip onto the UFL, and then you would slide this bracket right here, bloop. And what it would do, saw that? I just slid it in. What it would do is keep it from popping off, because that used to be a problem we would have back in the day. But because the Vista has this built into it, we don't need it. So what I'll do is I'll just rip that right off of there. And there you go. Off, gone, out of our way, never to be seen again. Now we clip that on, and we can put our bracket back over and tuck that back underneath. Now I'll just tighten this screw back down. And voila, we have our antenna on. We have our mounting piece on, and this guy's not going to come apart. We've also achieved the connection of our flight controller, and our camera's already ready to roll. So now we can pull up our frame. Now, if you're wondering why I'm running the camera first instead of running it last, well, I have very good reason for that. And that's because I want this cable right here that runs through my stack, I want that to be underneath my stack and not on top. So by running it now, I'm ensuring that it's done and out of the way. We'll pick a good starting angle, maybe something like that, and we will tighten it up. All right, next up, we're going to put our flight controller forward. We'll put our Vista right here, and we need to go ahead and secure this down. Now, a lot of pilots like to just use a little double-side sticky tape when mounting their Vista or air unit. I mean, the air unit, you kind of don't have a choice, but with the Vista, you do. Well, I like to use myself some nice long M2 screws, and I flip this guy over, and I actually run through the bottom, right out the top, as you can see, like that. And then I'll put a nut to hold it down. And I do this because double-sided sticky tape is not very secure in terms of, holy cow, I just had a hard crash. My battery's ejected. My Vista ejected. That ain't going to be happening to me. Now, to make our lives a little less painful, I will use my motorized screwdriver, and I will hold that like that and spin that from the bottom. We definitely, surely do not need 4. I'm thinking 2 is more than enough. All right, so I've got another lock nut. I'll pinch it right here, grab it right here, and there you go. Time to snug it up. Ooh, that was tight. All right, bolts are trimmed nice and thin. You see that? So our top plate's gonna go on no problem. And let's go ahead and lock down our antenna. And I'm gonna be able to do that by pushing it in, boom, and then I'm gonna seat it right here as originally discussed. Boom, so there you go. Antenna's on, looking good. It's connected and looped around, and we've got all of our wiring this way. We kept in mind during mounting to make sure that our USB-C connector was accessible. So with our Vista done and in, I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to grab our ESC. This is the V45 amp light. I'm going to open it up, and as you can see, this is a beautiful ESC. Look at all those FETs, nice filtration down the center. This is very, very nice, laid out beautifully. It is a bigger board, but it's still very, very nice. Let's grab our baggie. It's got our XT60 connector, our mounting grommets, and some connectors. And what I do is I'll pop this foam out, and I'll dump all this in here. That way I can see what I got. I know what I'm working with. So these two need to connect. Now, you're probably going, holy cow, that is a huge connector on that flight controller, but if you watch that video, you would know that this flight controller can support over 8 motors. Look at that, Speedybee app ready. So that means out in the field, I'll bust out my app, I'll turn on my quad, and I'll be able to do all my settings right from my phone. How freaking cool. So I'm pretty excited about this. All right, let's get this connected. So with the flight controller came these connectors here, and we need to pair these up. So let's go ahead and pull this out. So here is going to be the connector that we're using. We have this option too, but as you can see, this one on the left is going to wire all of our motors when we only need 4. This is going to be a quadcopter. So I'm going to plug that in just like that. I'm going to line it up to my ESC, and we need to find the connector that's going to work. So if I dump all my contents, I should hopefully find one. Let's see, what's that right there? And we'll line this up, and boom, 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 boom. Guess what I found? All right. So now we just need to put the respective wire in the correct socket. I'm going to go ahead and do this and get this connected. If you are unsure how to do what it is that I am doing, and that is wiring my flight controller to my 4-in-1, I have a full video on how to wire any 4-in-1, and that is a great resource if you're unsure what it is that I'm doing. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up, but go check that video out. All right, let me go ahead and get this connected. Oh yeah, so what we've got here is we've got this pinned. Now, while pinning this, I am putting my negative, my positive, my current. I'm also connecting my motor wires, motor 1, motor 2, motor 3, motor 4. We need our signal wires so that way the flight controller can tell the ESC which motor to turn on and when. Now, the thing about that is Betaflight 4.3 or greater has this new awesome capabilities where I can basically not even worry about that. I could have just plugged them all in. Who cares? Except for the power and ground. Got to do that right. You also need your current sensing to be right. But your motor wire ordering really doesn't matter because now inside of Betaflight 4.3 or greater, there's a little wizard button, and if you click that, you no longer have to worry because it will literally spin up each motor one at a time, and you can just assign them real quick. And this is called channel mapping or motor mapping, if you will. And I do have a video on how to do that the old school way where you actually go into the CLI and you actually reorder the motors, and you don't have to do that anymore. So it's very, very cool. Very, very exciting, but out of old habits, I went ahead and just put them in order anyways. So as you'll see right here, the reason why I decided to use the grommets that have the fatter bottom is to keep my ESC far enough away from the frame that there's no chance that they'll touch, on top of the fact that I have my camera cable running underneath. So it's very important to me to keep this separation semi-decent. Also, it's an aluminum frame, so it is extremely conductive. We don't want our components anywhere near it. Let's take a look as if our flight controller was mounted on top. And there you go. It's going to be a beautiful stack, rocking and rolling. All right, so now we've got our ESC set. We're ready to pretty much mount our flight controller and plug both these cables in. But before I do that, I need to go ahead and get our motors mounted. So let's go ahead and focus on that. And there's our 4 motors there. Let's go ahead and get these open and out and ready. All right, pilot, so here are the motors. Excuse me, I don't know where these have been in my life, but they are gorgeous. Look at that. Silver with a hint of blue. Absolutely beautiful. I grabbed them just because, hey, I thought they matched the aluminum with the blue, but oh, look at this. God, that's absolutely gorgeous. And I'm not going to lie, they feel very, very beefy. So I'm hoping these are a good motor. I've been on the hunt, as many of you know, for a indestructible motor. And I know the right crash is going to break any motor, but I'm looking for something that's not going to break on every crash. It's just been the name of the game. So let's go ahead and get this mounted, and God, it's going to look good, isn't it? Ooh! All right, so what I want to do is show you how I mount motors, because that's just part of building a quadcopter. So what we're going to do is we're going to slide one screw in, and then what I'll do is I will set it by using my driver and just basically setting that screw, right? So there you go, it's set. So what does that mean? That means I can still move it around, but it's not going to fall off if I let go. So I'm going to grab another one, and I usually like to do catty corner, if you can see that, and we'll get it started just like that. So now I know my motor's not going anywhere, and I know that my holes are lined up. So what I'll do is I will grab my Loctite. I use blue because red means you don't get your screws back if you need to change out for, let's say, a broken motor. You want to be able to get your motor off, so that way you can put on a new one. So we've got a little bit of Loctite on the edge. I'll pop it in, and there you go. So that one's set. But I know that I didn't set it and it's off, right? I know that I set it and it's on right. So we'll do the next one, catty corner. Boom. Now I can undo the other two that I originally had on. Put Loctite and drive them in. Let's grab this last one, and we'll drive this last motor. Now, all four set, nice, strong, and tight, and it's Loctite. So over the weeks, over the months, over the flights, over the crashes, this motor will not loosen up because the thread locker is holding the threads in place. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bust out the next magical part of this build, which makes this go from just a meh to a woohoo, nice drone build. And that is these LEDs right here. And these aren't your traditional LEDs or programmable LEDs where you can actually change the color. I purchased the color that I wanted to match. And as you'll see here, these are 35mm white. I didn't do blue. I was going to do blue, but it was a little bit too much blue. So, and the blue was a shade off. So I went ahead and changed it to white. So what we're going to do now is we're going to prepare to mount this first one that goes right here. So I'll go one. Now this one on the right side and the one on the left side both need to be the exact same length. So I'll go like that. And then the one in the middle just needs to be a hair longer. And the reason why is because that is how these pads are laid out on here. And what is that? Those pads are staggered. And that's because these are tight soldering with lots and lots of voltage running through it. So they staggered them so that way you're not running 3 wires stacked right on top of each other. I'll grab the motor wires that I literally just cut this off this motor. Boom, cut it. And now I'm going to go right onto here just like this. There's 1, 2, and we'll set the third one just like that. So there you go. I've got all 3 on, soldered, and looking good. So we need to tin these real quick. And let's grab our tweezers. 1, 2, and 3. So as you can see, all 3 are soldered up. I've got the LED right where I want it, and everything's looking good. I prefer the heat gun. And I know when you're originally looking at these, you're like, gosh, they're a little cloudy looking, right? But once you heat them up, they clear right up. So what we'll do now is we'll grab ourselves some double-side sticky tape, and this is to prevent it from coming off in the future. And what I'll do is put it right on the bottom like that. And, you know, by all means, you can just use a zip tie, but I prefer for cosmetic purposes to not do the zip tie method with my LEDs. There we go. Alright, now we will line this up as perfect as can be. And look at that. It's literally the exact width as the arm. Perfect. Alright, now we need to solder this motor up to the actual ESC. 1, 2, 3. Grab your motor wires. 1, 2, 3, and let's go ahead and solder them up. 1, 2, and I'll actually spin for the third one, and 3. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the other 3 on so we can keep it moving. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Pilots, look at the way this is coming together. If you run 6S, you should make it a habit to have a capacitor. I'm going to go ahead and just feed it right through the bottom right here. Just like yay. It can actually just sit in this pocket that we have right here. Let's grab some needle nose. And look at that. That's actually beautiful. It just sits right there snug in this little pocket as if it's not even there. It won't get hit. It won't get ripped off. It's not causing any problems or bothering anybody. All right. Trim off the extra. And what we'll do basically is tin the pads to install our actual XT60 connector, but it's going to cause a secondary bonus, and that is securing our capacitor all in one shot. There you go. And let's get our negative on. Boom. Look at those big, beautiful blobs. So there you go. Now we have that on and done. Our last and final touch really is to connect our ESC. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'll do that by just literally plugging it in. Now, what better than blue spacers to match our blue theme? These literally match our motors perfectly. Look at that. Bam. So let's pop those on. Boom. Now we can go ahead and set our flight controller. Spacers perfectly. Look at that. Boom. All right. Taking a look at that. That is sandwiched in there ever so nicely. We still have plenty of play. One final screw. The only thing left to install is our actual GoPro mount, and that's not a problem. You just slide these 2 screws out, pick the 2 holes that match the angle that you want to run, and stick that back in. And I mean, holy cow, look at that. Whew. Pilots, this is an absolute beautiful frame. It is matched perfectly with the blue on chrome, with the chrome on blue. I've got everything in here just nice and snug and absolutely amazing. All right, here we go. So, moment of truth for the sake of watching the power up in the dock. Tell me that's not nice. We can do a wait real quick just to find out, in case you guys are curious, because I want to know. Do you want to know? Let's find out. How heavy? 434 grams. All right, just for giggles, I've got myself here. This is the Moon Goat. All right, she's still built and together, but she's been through a lot. And I'm going to put this on. 432 grams. So you're talking a 2 gram difference in weight. So it should feel and fly just like a normal quadcopter. All right, pilots, that's going to do it for the build of the first aluminum quadcopter ever built in FPV. I don't believe it has been done before, and it's done now, and we are going to take it to the clouds, and we're going to find out, is this guy going to hold up? Is it going to not hold up? Is it going to crash and bend and fail? Or is it going to just keep on and kick it? Am I going to literally be able to crash all I want and not have any problems with my frame? I mean, sure, I'll probably break a motor here and there, but is my frame going to be able to take the beating that I think it's going to be able to? So I'm going to go ahead and jump into beta flight. I'm going to get this guy set up, and then we're going to take it out to the clouds, and we're going to thrash and bash. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you on the next one.